startups don't need growth teams. He said, startups do not need growth teams. You do not need a head of growth. Your CEO should be your head of growth, and your whole company should be the growth team.
How do you do your most impactful work as a growth marketer? Hello and welcome to Growth Masterminds. My name is John Koetsier. We have a super special treat today. We have a returning guest who absolutely crushed it last time. A few months ago, we chatted with her. Maybe it was 6 months. I don't really know. We were talking about rocking the cold start, going from zero to massive growth. If you haven't heard that episode, watch that episode, go back, check it out. It is amazing. Today, we're chatting about something just as important. How do you do your most impactful work as a growth marketer? We all know the 20-80 rule, the Pareto principle, right? How do you do the 20% that gets you the 80% rather than the 80% that gets you the 20%? Our repeat guest is Hannah Parvaz. She's been awarded App Marketer of the Year, Biz Strategy Consultant of the Year. She runs her own growth agency called Aperture. And judging by LinkedIn, her impact has exploded lately. Hannah, welcome back to Growth Masterminds.
Thank you so much for having me, John. I was just thinking, when was the last time? And it was a year ago.
Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
Get out of here.
Where does the time go? It's absolutely unbelievable. I remember
We are just as young as we were back then.
just as cute as we were a year ago. But yeah, I was in a different house then, and the only time I was in that was last summer. So
Well, you're this crazy move all over the world type of person, work from anywhere. So yeah, a digital nomad type. So Hannah has promised not to make me cry today. I'm already crying. I was on a 2-week service trip in Honduras. I was working in the sun. I couldn't use my sunglasses and my eyes are fried. I looked like Gollum 2 days ago. So if I sniffle a little bit here, yes, she is talking about very emotional topics and growth marketing, but also it's just a physical thing. I apologize.
I'm gonna do my hardest.
I know you will. I wanna, before we jump in, we have important stuff to talk about and crazy cool stuff to talk about. But before we do that, I want to catch up a little bit first. I want to talk about what you've been up to lately, what's going on. I noticed you've been doing these monthly LinkedIn summary posts, and I'm so jealous. It's such a great idea that you had, and I'm going to totally steal it. What have you been up to?
It's been busy. I have been doing a lot of different things. I was having breakfast at the House of Lords discussing the gender investment pay gap. I was helping several companies scale their growth. I've been helping, one of the biggest companies in the world launch new products over the last couple of months. It's been really busy. And very importantly, I've been doing a lot more talking. I joined the Your Awesome panel the other month. So that one was a couple of months ago now. And I'm really looking forward to the kind of 3-day workshop series that you've got coming up in September as well, where I will be talking about creatives. But yeah, I've just been growing my company, Aperture, hiring some new people. We've been working with a lot of new, really exciting products. We've been getting such good results. So yeah, things have been really good, really strong lately.
And I believe you're actually doing your first live talk session conference sort of thing with Aperture in just 2 days.
Just 2 days time. Yeah. August the 22nd at 9 a.m. We're having the first ever Aperture session. So we're starting an event series where we're getting together just some of the kind of top people in tech. So whenever we're in the same place, John, we'll have to organize one to have kind of, I don't, networking has a bad rep, but what we want to do is foster connections. There's been a lot of moments in my life which have just changed everything by meeting one person. And so we're inviting all of the people into the room that can change each other's lives. We're having this time a conversation about AI and growth, how to use AI for growth. So we've got some amazing people, Steve Toy, the CEO of Memrise, Shen Solon, from Launch Lemonade, Johan Pavi, everyone's favorite. We're all going to be discussing AI and growth. So yeah, really looking forward to that one in
So,
London.
sounds super cool. Wish I was there, not in London, so can't attend. But I will say this, I've been in those sessions around growth where you have 30 people in a room, 40 people in a room, 50 people in a room, whatever the number, but it's not 500. And
Hmm.
they're high quality people. And like you say, one person can change your life. and the conversations you have are just qualitatively different than the ones you have at a massive conference. And also, I've seen in a lot of those events that I think Steve Young does them, App Masters. I'm not sure if
Yes.
he still does them, but I've been to a few of those. People
Hmm.
work on their problems with other
Hmm.
smart people. And they really, really get stuff done. So I look forward to that maybe some point in the future.
Yeah, Steve
Oh,
does really great ones because he does a series of talks and then a series of workshops and roundtables and things like that. So we're going easy with our first one. It's going to be one panel and then lots of acai balls as well because it's super hot in London at the moment. So yeah, pull everybody down.
I was just in Honduras. It was 30 degrees Celsius with 100% humidity every single day. We were working our butts off. I can't be that hot. But
No
I
one
know, hey,
enjoys that.
London, no AC. So I guess it is what it is.
Mhm. Exactly.
Let's talk about what we came to talk about. I want to talk about prioritization. It's such a tough topic for everyone. It's so easy, even when you are a high performer, a star performer, when you're an all star growth marketer and you do amazing work, it's so easy to get busy, to start checking off tasks, to do good work, but maybe not focus on the most impactful things. I literally think this is one of the most difficult things in the world. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean it's a extremely important topic, and my company is called Aperture for exactly this reason. You know, I was a photographer in a past life, and Aperture is all about finding where to focus. You know, it's about putting things into perspective. It's about your depth of field. And so for us, you know, finding where is the most impactful work that you can be doing? What are your biggest growth levers and which one, if you push on it right now, will have the biggest impact on your North Star metric? That's what we're always trying to find out. So the way in which I think about it and the way in which we kind of go about implementing prioritization at my company at Aperture is first, it really has to be rooted in what is your business objective. You know, you have to all be aligned around what that is to begin with. And so that's really our North Star metric. You know, what is this most important metric that everyone in the company can unite around? So at Facebook, that's daily active users. You know, it's how many people can are coming back to the product because that's how they monetize as well, you know, with people returning to the product. They've got like over 3 billion monthly active users at the moment. And this is a metric that represents both what the customer wants, you know, they are getting value, so they're coming back. And it also represents what the business wants, you know, they want that usage. So your North Star metric, it's really important that you're balancing both of these. Very often I see and I speak to companies which have a ratio, like they'll have conversion rate or something like that as their North Star metric. And that's very easy to manipulate because all you have to do if that's your North Star metric is just stop acquiring people. And that's not going to be very helpful. So yeah. So what we want to do is create one of these metrics that can everyone can unite around. And then we're going to figure out what are the biggest levers that we have to impact that. You know, we're going to look at whether that's kind of acquisition, whether that's activation, you know, or retention. So for example, just to put this into perspective and to give people a real visual for what that might look like. Let's say you're a subscription app, you know, you're a meditation app. A perfect North Star metric for this kind of company would be something like weekly meditating subscribers. And so here you've got a cadence, you know, people are coming back. It's not just meditating subscribers, you know, which might happen once a year. They're coming back. They're receiving value, you know. They're doing a key action which would be meditating, and then they're paying us because they're subscribers. So let's say it's weekly meditating subscribers. To impact that, you've got acquiring, you know, getting more installs.
Mhm.
You've got putting people into the top of the funnel, but also you could have something that's impacting how those people are converting. So you might be working on your sign up flow or your paywalls or something like that. And that could also be impacting it based on the top total number of kind of installs you're acquiring. But then also it could be a deeper problem like retention. It could be a win back problem if people are churning. And so this might actually be your biggest area for impact. So what we want to do is be able to identify all of this. You know, I usually just plot it in a Google Sheets, all of these different metrics, look at how we're converting at all of the different stages. You know, it's really important before we can even do this, that we are tracking properly. So we have to zoom out further. Like, how are we tracking this in a cohorted way?
Mhm.
People who signed up in June, how are they converting versus people who signed up in May?
Mhm.
So we need to be able to look at this. And then from there, we'll be able to see which area, if we focus there, will give us our biggest kind of growth opportunity. So if we're seeing that people are converting really well, we're having a really high percentage paying, we're not churning, our day 30 is 55%, wonderful. Then we just need to focus on acquisition. That's the only thing that we need to focus on then. And so this is really kind of the template really that we follow to do this. It's really important that, especially as a small company, as you're growing, you'll be able to focus on two of these areas at a time, on three of these areas at a time. But still, as you're growing, you might be optimizing one section of one of those areas with your entire team, because
Mhm.
this will be where the biggest area for impact is.
Mhm. It's so easy to atomize when you're marketing, right? You're working on a campaign, you're working on creative, you have an initiative, you have a metric you want to improve, those sorts of things. How does having a full funnel approach change things?
Having a full funnel approach really, I ran a panel about a year, 2 year, oh my gosh, 2 years ago now. And it was about how to collaborate your product team with your marketing team, with your growth team, and what all of those different things are. And every company that I've been in, product and marketing have rolled into growth. And that's how we're kind of getting through these silos, which is often what is happening. You've got your product team thinking about one thing, you've got your marketing team just trying to get impressions or installs or
Mhm.
whatever they're
Mhm.
doing at the moment. And there's this gap. There's a bridge that no one can cross here because they're given different targets. They're being told that they should be focusing on different areas. They're not working together. And actually, we are producing better work when we work together.
Mhm.
And so at the companies that I've worked at and at the teams that I currently work with, what we try and do is instead unify this. We build one team. Mark Zuckerberg said in an interview, I posted it on LinkedIn the other day. It was a really great interview. And what he said was, startups don't need growth teams. He said, startups do not need growth teams. You do not need a head of growth. Your CEO should be your head of growth, and your whole company should be the growth team. You know, your marketer can be working on email, like your marketer could be working on prioritizing CRM for retention. Your
Mhm.
developer could be working on features for acquisition, you know? And it's really about how are we focusing together to make the biggest impact on this area so that we can move on quickly to the next, so that we're collaborating. Marketers will need development resource. Developers will need product marketing resource. So how do we make sure that all of this is unified? It's by working on the same things at the same time.
And every CEO is going like, "But I'm spending 50% of my time raising the next round," or
It's true. It's true, but then they need someone that can be their kind of number two. So,
Mhm.
and in that case, and I've been in this situation as well, the CEO is raising their next round. And what that needs then is, if you do have a head of growth, they should be super aligned with the CEO. They should have full backing. They should have the full
Mhm.
support of the CEO, because
Mhm.
they basically have to act as that role, for the prioritization of where the business is focusing. So, yeah.
It's super interesting, you bringing up that Mark Zuckerberg quote, and I was just, like, processing that and working through that, and that makes a ton of sense, and I love it, and it has so many different implications as well, and I'm kind of applying it to how they've built Threads and what they've done with Threads and how they've just run really slow with that. They haven't tried to monetize it. They haven't really tried to push it that hard, really.
Mhm.
There's been really interesting just to look at that.
It
You've
has.
said
I
Go
just want
ahead.
to add, I think their cross-platform marketing is fantastic, though. On
Yes.
Instagram, you're just continuously shown, and they've experimented a lot with it. You're continuously shown like snippets of a thread
Yep.
post. I don't know what we're calling these. I actually re-downloaded Threads recently, and someone was saying that we should start calling them tweets because that will be the last piece of IP that Elon Musk loses.
Wouldn't
So
that be
anyway,
nice?
so people, threading, you are seeing snippets of these threads, and it used to be that you could click it and it would expand and you'd see the whole thing. And now what they've done is that if you click it, it just directs straight to the App Store to download Threads. So they finally got me back. And now that's what I've been scrolling on lately.
Very interesting. Very cool. It seems like a good time to bring up that you've talked about growth is not equivalent to marketing. Talk about that.
Over and over again, especially even lately, I'm getting people in my inbox telling me, we're hiring a growth marketer, we're hiring a growth marketing manager. And I always ask them back, what does that mean? And every single time someone says it means something different. And so there is a bit of an identity crisis happening in marketing, in product, in growth. Like, what are all of these different things? And so I'll tell you what growth started as and what it has changed into. I'm not quite sure. So growth really comes from Carol Dweck's growth mindset, which
Mhm.
is basically how our mindset whether we have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset.
Mhm.
So if we have a fixed mindset, that means that we might receive new information, we learn new things, but our behaviors don't change. Our mindset doesn't change. You might see something, you might read a book about anxiety, for example, and you've learned all of these things, and actually your behavior doesn't change. You still keep going around in the same circles. That would be a fixed mindset. A growth mindset, in what Carol Dweck wrote, was that a growth mindset is that when you receive new information, your mindset changes, you've learned and you've adapted, and your behavior changes. And so this is really where this has come from into businesses. And as a part of this, growth as a team and growth as a department and a role is really about getting new information and learning from it and prioritizing based on that new information. And so I'm regularly contacted by people, or I see people posting about growth marketing, and what I'm told is somewhere between it's doing paid ads, but it's not just paid ads, it's also data, but it's also CRM, but then also social media. And so, these are all different things, and you can hire someone who can be responsible for all of those different things. But a person in a growth role within your company really should be leading on what is the priority for us at the
Mhm.
moment. I've looked at all of the metrics, I've looked at all of our opportunities, and this is where we should be focusing on for this amount of time. So
That's an
a lot of,
upscaling. That's a
yeah,
massive upscaling of the growth role. And it correlates with your previous comment, Mark Zuckerberg's quote about the CEO should be your kind of chief growth marketer, because this is not somebody who, like you said, does a social media. There's somebody who runs paid campaigns, not somebody who looks at a couple things. You're saying knows all the metrics, has the big picture, and knows what's most impactful or discovers what's most impactful.
exactly. And works with the team to identify what will be most impactful and helps them understand where they should be focusing on. So a growth marketer, the only way that that kind of makes sense in my head is if they are the marketing function of a growth team, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they would be focusing on acquisition. It just means that they're
Mhm.
a kind of all-rounder that can focus on many different things. So a growth team usually is made up of, a marketing person, producty, but this kind of is more of a product marketer who can work across both, deciding what's going to be built in the product, if there are any features, if we're going to be working on ads, there should be a data person so that they can help with
Mhm.
analysis.
Mhm.
There should be
Mhm.
a designer and then a
Mhm.
developer.
Mhm.
And this is the composition of the team that you need to be able to go and build, really.
If I can kind of replay what I think I heard you said in a way that
Mhm.
I think I understand it, and then
Yeah.
get your feedback, that would be amazing. So, what I'm kind of hearing is marketing does stuff, and it can be good stuff, and it can be great stuff, and it's stuff that needs to happen. But growth is a mindset, and growth is a perspective, and growth is a way of approaching a distributed global problem in a distributed global way, and then applying the tactics of marketing in order to achieve a result. Does that sum up?
Yeah, that's really great. I'm going to write that down for later.
Yay. I haven't heard Carol Dweck's name since university, so that's been a while. I'm not going to say how many years that's been.
5 years.
Five,
Paramount.
exactly. 5 years ago. Totally. Yep. Awesome. Okay. So we've talked about this a little bit. Full funnel. We've talked about big picture, all that stuff. Hey, you do that and you get the big picture. You see all the KPIs. You have your North Star, which is your KPI that matters to you and the KPI that matters to your customer, your user, your player. Great. But eventually, the big idea has to break down into some action points and some planning and some campaigns or some. You can't eat the whole elephant in one bite. At least I can't. How do you do that?
I was just imagining you trying to eat a whole elephant. It would have to be some kind of snake jaw
Yes.
situation. So what we really do is after we've identified what are those three or so areas that we could be focusing on, let's say we pick acquisition as our biggest area for opportunity. Now the whole business is focusing there. What I would usually do then with my teams is we do a big brainstorm or a speed storm is what I usually call it. And so what we do is we get as many ideas as possible down in an hour. And, that can be any idea at all. And it can be anything that will impact acquisition. And so that could be running Facebook ads, you know, that could be posting organically on Reddit. That could be getting Kim Kardashian to post about us. That could be anything, that could be doing a lead gen on our website. It can be anything. And all we want to do is impact this metric. What are the things that we can do? The kind of head of growth role person would take this away and start breaking it down. They would I usually put it into a spreadsheet and I have one column for effort and one column for impact.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do then is if something is going to be very high effort, we would give it a score of a 1. And if it's going to be very low effort, we would give it a score of a 5.
Mm-hmm.
For impact, it goes the other way around. So if it's going to be very low impact, it gets a score of a 1. And if it's going to be very high impact, it gets a score of a 5. So basically, you've got all of your items, you've got these 2 columns, and then you have a 4th column, which is score. And what we do then is we times our effort and impact. So if it's a very if it's a very low effort and a very high impact, it would times 5, which would give you a score of 25.
Mm-hmm.
You could have all done that maths probably, but I'll do
Mm-hmm.
it for you.
I don't
And,
know.
and we go
ChatGPT,
through
please help.
we go through all of the different line items here. This one's going to be really high effort, low impact. And this will help us prioritize where we're going to be focusing first. So then the ones with the highest scores are going to be 16s, 20s, 25s. And from here, these are the ones that are low hanging fruit. So we can
Mm-hmm.
start working through those. We're saying this is really low effort, and I think it will give us a really big result. So we start working through those. And very quickly, we're going to run out of those.
Yep.
Unfortunately, not
Yes.
everything can be low hanging fruit. So what we do then is we go to the ones which we think are going to have the highest impact. As you begin doing this process, your estimations are not going to be 100% perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get better and better at estimating this over time. And so, you go for the ones that to begin with, you perceive this is going to have the highest impact. And it might have a really high effort as well. I always
Mm-hmm.
say, because we're talking about acquisition, someone might say, let's introduce this new paid ads channel. I always say a paid ads channel is the highest effort because, okay, now you have to do that forever. You're going to be constantly adding new creatives. You're going to be constantly doing things, reporting, adding things, building, having meetings with, let's say, TikTok team, like all of this stuff now, you're committed forever. So what we want to do is break these things down into a test. Let's say one of our ideas is building out SEO for our website. How do we test that to begin with? Is that going to be a big opportunity for us? For one of my companies previously, we did identify SEO as an opportunity. And so what we did was we just built a very simple blog to begin with. We started producing some blog posts. We started to then see that we were ranking for them. We saw more opportunities. We saw that people who were coming into our blog posts were converting really, really high. We were having about 10%
Mm-hmm.
install to paying rate from our blog.
Wow.
And so then that helped us prioritize that more. We built more blogs. I actually built out a system where I produced a load of different blog titles and keywords and prioritized everything based on the keywords, and then outsourced to a lot of different writers. And very quickly, our kind of our site traffic, our organic site
Mm.
traffic 6x'd within like 6 weeks just from
Nice.
doing this.
Nice.
So, we needed developers for that. We needed designers for that. And so this is how we're prioritizing this, but we break it down into a small test. We always say small tests, big ideas, big ideas, tiny tests. So this is really how we identify where we're going to be focusing.
Love it, love it, love it. Reminds me of an episode I did a couple months ago with Jacob Brushfin of retention.blog, where we looked at a bunch of different frameworks, and one of them was a prioritization framework. Check that out if you are interested. We've had such a great conversation. And I do think that switching between the macro and the micro view is maybe one of the more difficult things in life. Not everybody can do it. Good growth marketers can do that. Good executives can do that. Very, very challenging thing. Hard for me too. But you seem to do it effortlessly. So kudos on that. But I want to hit one more thing. You talked about creative recently, and you talked about building flows from ads into products. And I want to have a short conversation on that. I want to tack it on to everything that we've done here, because I find that so incredibly important. And I approach this as just a person, just a user, a player, a customer. And if I come through an ad, that's the brand promise that I have. That's the awareness of the company or the product or the app that I have. And when that totally clashes with what I see perhaps on an App Store listing or Google Play listing, or if that clashes after the install with my first open experience, my first 5 seconds, 10 seconds with the product, I'm already at some kind of disconnect. I'm already at some kind of like, hey, I liked, I clicked on this, and here's what I got. And it's different. And I had that just recently, just for a mobile game, where I saw the ad. I thought, hey, that's cool. That's fun. I'll try that. I rarely install new games. I play like one game for years, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm rarely shifting over. I thought, hey, that looks like fun. I'll try that. And I got into the game experience, and it was very different. And the thing that I saw the ad was just a tiny portion of it that I might get to later. Who knows? Maybe it's weeks later. Maybe it's months later. I have no idea. I don't really know. It's deleted the app immediately, right? Talk about this flow from ad to product.
So to talk about that, I need to zoom out a little bit further as well. So to tell you a little bit about how we structure our testing. So whenever we're thinking about our ads, what we need to do is first identify what are the reasons that people might be using our product. So with all of our companies, we under Aperture, we work with and run ads for quite a few different kind of mobile apps and e-com products at the moment. So what we have to do first is really identify what are the jobs to be done? What are the reasons that someone might use this product or buy this product? And so what we do first is we start testing all of the different jobs or themes why someone might start using this product. So usually we have kind of 6 to 8 different themes for a company, and this helps
Mhm,
us start to determine what will be the creative direction that we're going in.
mhm, mhm,
And so this is why I say that we really need to zoom out and start at the beginning to talk about this, because we can't just kind of test randomly, willy-nilly spray and pray. We have to have a structure to our testing, and we have to apply this kind of growth mindset to our entire flow. And so what we do is we get those themes, we start running experiments on those. And what we'll do is we'll identify, 2, 3 of these that are performing best, hopefully. And from there, we will then start testing along that direction. So, for example, there might be a product. I'll talk about a real example instead of a hypothetical. With one of my companies, it was an audio journalism app, and we identified that there were a few different reasons why someone might use this product. And we did this through customer conversations, like literally one-on-one conversations. And we found out, people might want to use this product because they get to learn every day. You know,
mhm.
some people want to use the product because they get to find out about the news, and it's specifically, I want to hear about the news. Some people want to just understand the world. That was the wording that they used.
Mhm.
Others want to seem more interesting,
Mhm.
and so there's all of these different use cases and different ways of describing what they're trying to achieve by using this product. So we take all of those, we turn them into messaging tests, and then we run those on Meta or on whichever platform we want to run it on. It doesn't matter. And Meta is a really easy one because there's so many people that are going to be able to interact with
Mhm.
your ads. You can produce static creatives really easily, and just run them and get very quick results. So I usually start with Meta, but it can work anywhere. So we run all of these different messages. We find which one works. So let's say learn something new every day performs
Mhm.
best. We would then take that and then start iterating around that. We would then start to see, okay, articulating this problem in this way, writing, learn something new every day versus learn about something, whenever you want. Like we'd find all of these different iterations, but around this theme. And then we'll start to produce creatives. Around this, we'll start to produce statics, UGCs. And what we're going to do is find that there are going to be some of these, that might have a really high click, but a very low conversion.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
what we do then is we prioritize in this way. So we take the ones that have a very high click, but a low conversion. And we might find, by the way, that learn something new every day has a really high click and a really high conversion, but seem more interesting has a really high click and really low app install conversion on the page.
Mhm.
So we might take that one, build a custom product page, and then put that just on there and test it against the control so that we
Mhm.
can see what the uplift is. But we're doing this based on what will be the most impactful area to focus on. And similarly, we might find, okay, learn something new every day has a really high app install rate, it has a really high click through rate, but it's converting very poorly in the app. Actually, what you can do is produce a flow in your product, which you can deep link to. So you can produce a deep
Mhm.
link, and then
Mhm.
you can link to that deep link from your ad as well. And so you can
Mhm.
test these flows against each other too. And this is really how we start testing a long product overall. So when we're working with companies, we help them with that entire process. We help them with their entire creative strategy, identifying what those themes are. We can actually help them with customer psychology and conversations as well. We then would identify, this is the area that we should be focusing on for our custom product pages, and then recommending we build these flows inside the app as well. So all of this, though, is just by identifying where should we be focusing right now. If we made a change here, will this give us the biggest results? We might be
Mhm.
having a consistently really high click-through rate that we don't think we're going to be able to beat. And then it turns to custom product pages. Then it turns to what's going on in the app with those existing creatives.
And here's where we come full circle, because I thought that this topic was an add-on to the others, but actually it's not. Because actually you need this full funnel approach and you need everybody involved in this, because you built your creative, but you started with your big picture and then you actually worked on stuff, marketing tasks and bits and pieces with the creative, with the campaigns, with the ads, with your app listing pages, and also your product, and coming into your product via a deep link into a certain spot. So somebody who has said, hey, that's interesting, I want that, comes in and they see the same thing and they see what they wanted immediately in the product. And then they can explore outside,
Right.
because every good app has more than one thing or more than and all that stuff, but they can at least start in a place of some familiarity based on where they indicated interest first.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All
Hannah,
connected.
exactly. Wow, making me think of Douglas Adams here. Uh,
I was thinking of the line.
science fiction writer. You can watch the movie, Life, the Universe, and Everything, I think it is. The answer is
Hitchhiker's
42.
Guide.
I better stop talking now.
42. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Hannah, as always, such a fun time. Thank you so much for taking this time. I really, really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure as always. Till next time.